Hi, my name is Megan Kane. I'm doing my science lesson titled Chemical Change and Physical Changes. This is a 7th grade chemistry lesson, and my goals are for the students to be able to learn exactly what the characteristics of a chemical and physical change are, explain why the reactions are occurring, and also to recognize the different indicators of a chemical change. So for my pre-lesson or my do now, what I'm going to have is for the kids to find examples in their daily lives of different physical and chemical changes. So what this kind of works on is the students using their prior knowledge of their house or in their neighborhood, or they're just going to find examples of maybe rust on a bike or milk spoiled in their refrigerator. And what this does, it allows the students to make a connection with their learning, and also just uses a little pre-knowledge before we get into the real lesson. Also, it allows them to make predictions on exactly why these certain things are occurring. Especially for my student with a learning disability who is 2 levels below grade level and also has trouble recognizing certain vocabulary or advanced vocabulary. It also allows that student to hear the different perspectives of the different students of his peers. So after they do this, what I'm going to have them do to incorporate a safety lesson is have them research what should we do, or the procedures that we should take when using chemicals in a laboratory or at home. So what they're going to do is, after they do their independent research, they're going to make a list of different safety measures, and then they're going to have a group discussion about the focus question that we're learning about, which is, I'm sorry, what safety hazards must you foresee and avoid while we're doing this experiment? So before we do the activities that we're going to do in the lesson, what I'm going to do is debrief the students, especially the student with a learning disability, on exactly what we're going to be doing, the materials that we're going to be using, and how should we use these materials when we're in the laboratory or if we're at home. Because some of the materials, like household ammonia, can be found in the house, and we want to know what the dangers of these certain chemicals are. So for my activities, what they're going to be doing is we're going to be using a hands-on approach. So it's not going to be reading from a story or of an article about physical and chemical changes. This modification is made specifically for my student with a learning disability, so they could see what exactly we're learning about and use their senses, all their different senses, to kind of make connections with the materials and the lesson that we're doing on physical and chemical changes. Also, another modification that I'm going to make is I'm going to use a brain pop video or some type of video that after we do the different activities, when we see the different chemical reactions, the bubbles and the changing of color of the steel wool, if my student still doesn't really understand what's going on, I'm also going to have a video of exactly the process of what goes on during a chemical reaction. So another modification that I'm also going to use in this lesson is that I'm going to have I'm going to have a vocabulary list for my student, so they have, and the definitions of all of the terms that we're going to be using. And I really hope this kind of helps. Even though it is reading and writing, it still allows the student to kind of look back in the work that we're doing, and hopefully that helps as well. So after we do the different activities, and the students get to see exactly what chemical changes are and the indicators of changing colors and a chemical reaction occurring, we're going to do an assessment. And the assessment that we're going to do is matching pictures to a chemical reaction and distinguishing between a chemical and a physical reaction. So for the assessment, it's going to be words, and it's going to be a description of what's going on, and then the student has to distinguish if that is a chemical or a physical reaction. For my student with a learning disability, what I'm going to do and what I'm going to modify is that I'm going to use pictures of what's going on and kind of explain what's going on in the picture, and then they can distinguish also if it's a chemical or a physical reaction. Also, I'm going to do a matching activity of the vocabulary that I previously have given the student. a matching activity between the definition of the term, the definition and the term. Also, one of the modifications, I'm doing 2 activities in my lesson, and the second activity with the potato is a little less complex, and that's also another modification that I'm using. At the end, I really hope that the students get to really achieve their goals and they really understand the different types of characteristics of a physical and a chemical change. To end the lesson, after the assessment, I have some additional assessments that I'm going to use, really just to go over the basics of what we're learning. Also, I really just hope that they really get the objectives set, and the learning outcomes are that when 2 reactants combine, a chemical change is occurring, and they get to use, hopefully from using their prior knowledge from the mini lesson and what they saw hands-on in the lesson, they really are meeting their goals and they're understanding the objectives.